Perek Chaf Gimel, Mishnah Gimel. Says the Mishnah, Lo yiskar odom pa'alim b'Shabbos. A person may not hire workers on Shabbos. V'lo yoma odom lechaveiroi liskar lepa'alim. And not only that, but you're not allowed to tell your friends to go and hire workers for you on Shabbos. Now, what is wrong with it? So the Baratanura straight away tells us, Lo yiskar odom pa'alim. You can't hire workers on Shabbos. Tichsiv mimtzoi cheftecho v'daber dovo. Again, this is a business activity which is caught by the Pasuk in Yeshayim, that your activities on Shabbos should not be for your own personal needs, nor should your speech be sort of a business-related talk. And therefore, you're not allowed to go and hire workers on Shabbos. V'lo yom adam lechaveiro seems to be obvious. If I can't hire a worker on Shabbos, then why should I be allowed to tell my friend, another Jew, to go and hire a worker on Shabbos? If it's also for me, then it's also for him. So what does the Mishnah mean? So the Gemara explains that it's not there for its poshet. It must be there l'diyuka, to come and teach me an extra chiddush. So the Baratanura says as follows: V'lo yoma odom lechaveiro l'diyuka nokte, to make a diyuk, to make an inference from it. Lo yoma lechaveiro sechar lanu pa'alim. You cannot say to your friend, go and hire workers for us. Aval omer, but you are allowed to say to him, hanireh shetalmudim le'erev. You can say to your friend, what are you doing tonight? And you know, and he knows full well, that you intend to hire him for his labor on Motzei Shabbos or on Sunday. That would be allowed. So long as you don't actually say the words, I want to hire you, your labor for this evening, for tomorrow, whatever it is, then it would be okay. Says the Baratanura. Since you're not explicitly hiring him, then it's mutter. The Kaimanon says the Baratanura, dibur osa, hirhur mutter. It's forbidden speech which is a problem, but hirhurim, thinking, is not a problem. So we say, like we sing in Zmiris, hirhurim mutarim. To have thoughts, even business thoughts, machshavas are okay. But the dibur is a problem because of a daber dovo. So therefore, you cannot hire the work on Shabbos, and you certainly can't tell your friend to hire a work on Shabbos. But you can say an expression, hanira emi halayla, what are you doing this evening? Knowing that you need to do some sort of work, that would be okay. So long as you don't express the actual issa that you want to do. And that's really brought in halach in Shulchan Aruch in Shin Zayin. The Mechaber says, V'daber dova, shelo yehi diburecha, shal Shabbos kediburcha shalcha. Your speech on Shabbos should be different to your weekday speech. Hilkach, asaloma dova ploni e'esel. You're not allowed to say, I'm going to do such and such a forbidden activity tomorrow. Or schora plonis ekn l'mocha, I'm going to buy such and such a commodity. And the Mishnah Berurah says, even if it's an Issa Drabonin, you can't do that. So, for example, to say that I'm driving to Manchester tomorrow, you can't say that, because you can't say that you're doing something which is asa. To say that I'm going to Manchester is incidentally actually okay, because there are halachically acceptable ways how to get there. To say I'm going to Eretz Yisrael is also okay, because there are halachically acceptable ways of how to get there. For example, you can go you can sail by ship, or to Manchester you can walk there al yidei burganin to avoid the tchum problems. But to say that I'm driving there, or I'm going to plough my field tomorrow, or I'm going to write a letter this week, that is not allowed on Shabbos, because you're not allowed to express doing any melacha on Shabbos, even if you only, of course, intend to do it after Shabbos. Okay, continues the Mishnah. Ein machshichin al hatchum liskar perlim. You're not allowed to go and to wait by the tchum, which is, of course, the 2,000 amas past the last house in the town, which is the limit of how far you can walk. You can't sort of make that journey and wait for night to come around, wait for Motzei Shabbos. In order that you can hire workers, liskar perlim, or lahavi peros, or in order that you can go and bring back some fruits from your field, that is not allowed. Why? Because the general rule is that since I'm not allowed to actually do these activities on Shabbos, to hire workers or to pick fruit, to bring fruit on Shabbos itself, therefore I'm not allowed to be machshich al hatchum. I can't go there and make the preliminary to facilitate that, to walk to the edge of the tchum in order that I can do this activity on Motzei Shabbos, because since the activity is not allowed on Shabbos, the preliminary to do it is also not allowed. To be machshich on the tchum in order to get there is also not allowed. What I am allowed to do is, I can walk to the edge of the tchum in order that I can watch my field. Because shmira alone, just watching it, is actually not a problem. That's mutter on Shabbos. Or maybe Paris beyond, and if I then decide later to bring some fruit back, that's allowed. Explains the Bartanura as follows. Ein machshichen ala tchum, lekarev atzme b'Shabbos, to bring yourself closer on Shabbos itself, at sof atchum, to the edge of the boundary, or lahachshich shom, to wait for nightfall there, shehei korov lemokum hapolim, that I'm going to be therefore closer by to the workers, oila pardes, or to the orchard, lahavi Paris, to bring fruit. The kol dover she'osel asos b'Shabbos, any activity which is also to do on Shabbos, also lahachshich alov, it's also for me to wait there until nightfall. Avol machshichu lihi yos korov, Lot says for lishma Paris, but I am allowed to go there to wait for night when I'm there in order to do shmira, to guard my fruit. The zeh dover hamuta, says about the Shabbos, because that's a permitted activity on Shabbos. Lishma Peresov. And then, umevi Peresov biyodei. Since my intention was just to guard my fruit, if I'm there and I change my mind and on the way home I want to bring some apples with me, that's no problem. Concludes the Mishnah. Klal Oma Abashol. Abashol sets out a general rule. Kol shani zakai ba'amirose. Anything which I am permitted to instruct or to say on Shabbos, Rishai ani lahachshich olov, I'm allowed to wait for night, to go there and wait for night. Now, what does this mean? So the Bartanura explains that Abashol is coming to argue with the Tanakama. Says the Bartanura, Klal Oma Abashol, a Tanakama Palik. He's arguing with the Tanakama. Because the Tanakama, the Osa Kol Chashecha, the Tanakama asad any walking and waiting until nightfall, V'loi maflik bein hachashecha shal mitzvah la chashecha shal reshus. The Tanakama does not differentiate between waiting for nightfall in order to do an activity which is not allowed, whether that is for a mitzvah purpose or whether it's for a neutral average purpose. V'osa ihu, and then Abashol comes along. V'oman says that if you're going to do a mitzvah purpose, even though that activity is not allowed to do on Shabbos, but I'm going ultimately for a mitzvah purpose, then it's shario, then I'm allowed to be machshich to go there to wait for nightfall. Why? Just like I'm allowed to tell a friend that, listen, tonight, unfortunately, we have to go and get the coffin and to get the tachrichim, the shrouds for a corpse, for a dead person. So too I'm allowed to go and walk to the edge of the tchum, that I can be ready after night, after Shabbos, lahavi arim v'tachrichim, in order to bring the coffin and the tachrichim. The Sefer, the next Mishnah, Mishnah Daled, which says, machshichin al tchum, lefakach aliskei kala, you can go for all these mitzvah purposes, therefore that must represent the view of Abashol and not of the Tanakama. The Sefer, this time, machshichin al tchum, lefakach aliskei kala, aliskei hameis, Abashol, he v'halacha k'mos, and the halacha is indeed like him. So therefore, the conclusion of this Mishnah is, Abashol sets out the rule. Kol shani zakai be'amirosa. Whatever I'm allowed to say on Shabbos, I'm allowed to be machshich for. And since I'm allowed to speak, to say that we're doing a mitzvah activity that doesn't violate the v'daber dovo, I can say we've got to go build an oren tonight, we've got to cut the tachrichim, we've got to do all these things. Therefore, I'm allowed to be machshich for that. I'm allowed to walk to the edge of the tachum and await nightfall to therefore be ready to actually pursue this mitzvah activity. And that is indeed the halacha. Masha Enkin, the Tanakama, would say not. Would say that any activity which is also to do on Shabbos, I cannot be machshich. But an activity which is mutter to do on Shabbos, then I can be machshich. And they don't differentiate between whether the activity which is also is a mitzvah, is not a mitzvah, it doesn't make a difference. According to the Tanakama, it's if activity is also, then I cannot be machshich. According to Abashol, it depends. If the activity is a mutter activity, and therefore I'm allowed to talk about it on Shabbos, it's a mitzvah activity, therefore it would be mutter to be machshich. But if it's a neutral activity, or something which is also then, that has no mitzvah function, then Abashol would agree that you would not be able to be machshich. That is the end of Mishnah Gimel.